Welcome to this edition of the $1 Million Mastermind podcast. This is where we pick the brains of high achievers from all walks of life and get their hard-earned, real-world insights on winning. I'm your host, Larry Weidel.
When you say you've had coaches over the years, what does that mean?
Well, I've had very early in my career, I bought a pretty well-established, 60-year-old generational practice in New York City at one point to grow my business. And I was a little nervous. It was bigger than I was used to. It was only a few years, out of things. And I hired a coach, a dental coach, there's dental consultants.
Uh-huh.
And it was great. And he taught me about systems and everything else. And we grew that practice. This was around 2008, by the way. So we grew every year during the recession, which was great. And it was nerve-wracking because I just bought my new practice, but we managed to grow every year. It wasn't huge growth, but it was growth, better than shrinkage. So that, a lot of
you're growing and everyone else is shrinking. That's great.
That's and so I've had that was my first coach. And then I think I took a few years off, lots of courses on the topic of leadership and things like that. Taken some leadership courses. And I think that's the most important thing we could do in any business is become better leaders. And that's where I'm focusing on now is how to be the best leader and certainly, digging into it a little bit. So for instance,
let me just kind of
please
shift gears. How will that make your life and your practice better now? If you're a better leader, what's the payoff for you in expanding and growing and improving skills?
Yeah, I think the number one thing is kind of like stacking,
right.
With a great leadership, hopefully you'll keep employees for longer, and you're coaching them for them to grow.
Right.
And if you have growing employees that are learning every day, every month, every year, then your business is better and better.
Right.
And I could bring people in, and I could grow, and there's a culture of growth and expectations and responsibility. Right, is something that's very hard in this world today that many people can't deal with taking responsibility.
Yeah,
and I'm very clear that no, we're going to take responsibility. We're not beating people for messing up, but we're going to take responsibility. So I have a list of words of the practice, for instance, right, and one of them is I'm sorry. We should be able to apologize if something goes wrong for a patient, like in a point we're late or something doesn't work out as intended. We should be able to say sorry to each other on the team. Like we don't think. No, do you know? I have had employees and I've seen people that cannot say the words, and where it's the place we are in society today.
That's really important. I've never heard anybody mention that on here.
Oh my! I've seen it, and I've had people. And here I'm trying to coach them to taking response, and I'm not trying to beat anybody up, but it all starts with I'm sorry. I'm gonna get that better. Sorry about that. And I have people that'll say, you point something out that's like a huge mistake, or it's a mistake. Right. I say make an upper night guard. It says upper night guard. They make a lower night guard or whatever, something like that. And the answer is,
right.
But our society has this thing about taking responsibility. I don't know why. Why don't we just all admit we're human? We screw up.
Right.
It'd be a lot easier than we just say, yeah.
What would you call that? And is that part of your one page, culture? Where would that fit into your thing? The fact that like be willing to say I'm sorry. Something that's simple. What do you call that?
Well, I used to have this pie chart. I still have the pie chart on there.
Right.
Task, attitude, promote dentistry. So part of attitude, what I finally realized in a breakthrough moment, I was having trouble with my team. I was frustrated.
Yeah.
Right. That's where breakthroughs come from. Frustration we could turn into a breakthrough, I hope. Right.
Right.
Either that or we bang our head against the wall, one or the other. I've done both, but I think it's important to define what attitude means. And I always thought it was just like a good mood, positive, warm, all that stuff. And I always thought that was it. But I decided to add to that, and it's on the sheet next to the pie chart on attitude, coachability.
Yeah.
You have to be coachable to be here. I can't deal with you if you're not coachable, which means you listen, you understand, you learn and take responsibility. It's all defined in bullet points right there. Versus talk over, be defensive, or finger point.
Right. It's great to show the verses, because that counterpoint, makes it very clear.
Yeah, just because some people might not get where you're going. And that's even our core values. We used to just have 5 words. We gave a sentence or 2 each to define what we mean by world-class, for instance, what we mean by dedicated, and by the way, people said I was crazy, my colleagues, when they're like, foo-foo stuff, core values, who do you, whatever. And I tell you, the dedicated thing, they helped define it, and they defined it as part of it as giving more than the usual 2 weeks notice if their life changes and they have to leave.
Yeah.
Right. Because this town, people come and go in Aspen.
Right.
And they defined how long they were, and they decided 1 month. But for the hygienist, who's a more very specific skill, harder to find in a small town, I have to import people.
Right.
2 months. And most of them have held to that in the many years since we defined that as we are going to give 1 month, and the other part they're going to give 2 months, and that's unheard of in today's society. So
sure.
I think it resonates with people to make a promise to and they're more likely to keep it. I really do believe that. I don't think that people are just going to do what they want anyway. They might, but they're much more likely if they've committed.
Absolutely. You've put the issue on the table. And again, that goes back to our thing about being specific. Being specific. Right. When you're specific, you're more likely to get the results you want.
Exactly.
So hope. And let me ask you this. Before I forget, what side of town did you build on? Where did you build?
Oh, we're the East End. We're out towards Independence Pass, about 1.5 miles.
Oh, okay.
In Mountain Valley.
Okay.
Yeah, love it up there. Great views, less traffic. Shh, don't tell anybody.
Yeah.
We like it quiet over there.
Now, being in Aspen, you met a lot of other, super successful people. My attitude about Aspen is a lot like yours. It's like, I used to major on skiing a variety of places, and that was before I went to Aspen. And
right.
All of that stopped, pretty much ground to a halt. I said, no, Aspen's enough for me. And so when you are in that town, there's a lot of people who could be anywhere that decide to be in Aspen too. And a lot of these are pretty competent people. And I'm sure a lot of them come through your door, and you develop a lot of friendship. Now, one you were telling me is the gallery owner, Chris Martin, and you were telling me that the similarities you noticed in his business and your business. Talk about that.
Yeah, I always find it interesting. Different business. Business is business, isn't it? It's about people. It's about trust. It's about delivering what you say you're going to deliver. But Christopher Martin is an amazing artist, and his clients are, we are in Aspen. His clients are just like mine, CEOs and everything else. But when we talk shop, it's like, we're best friends. So we'll start talking numbers, and his numbers are very similar in that, our margins are similar, and it's a completely different business. I just think it's amazing that his margins could be so close to a dentist, and he's an artist. And, not many artists are business people, but he is. He has multiple galleries all over the country, and his clients are the who's who. I actually had not a joke written, but I planned on saying, who am I as a dentist? I am the dentist of the people that you should have on this show, usually the CEOs and the really super uber successful people. I'm their dentist, and they come to me because we do something so predictable, and they want the best, they want efficiency of time, and they want predictability of outcome.
Right.
And but realistically, it's quite an honor to be here, because I really think that all my patients should be on here.
I'm going to probably be hitting you up for some recommendations too.
Absolutely. I'd love to.
And as you go forward, what energizes you at, like you say, you turn 50? What excites you about your possibilities? Because you've climbed a lot of mountains, not only in business or in your profession, but in life. And what kind of new horizons are you aware of now that are possible that maybe you weren't aware of 5, 10 years ago? And I'm talking about possibles for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think I'm very focused right now on locking up our IP. I think IP is a great asset to have. So
Now, talk about that.
well, our algorithm and our process. I know it's like a vague area
Right.
of whether it's protectable, but I'm working with a really great firm that thinks they could protect some of our process and some of what we could do with our IP, like automate things to take out a lot of the human components in designing these smiles based on our mathematical formula, things like that.
Is that
So
something you could license or?
yes, and so there's where the value I think will come from, not even to the individual dentist, but to a software company.
Right.
Whether we create our own software or do it this, I think the almost easier way is there's plenty of CAD programs, computer aided
Right.
design programs out there in dentistry, and licensing the algorithm to them to automate it. Now their software is they're not really there yet. So we'll see if we're going to develop it or we're going to see if they're close enough to being able to use an algorithm.
Uh-huh.
And I think AI, I think it could play a large part in speeding up the development of that software. So that's where I'm focusing besides on my practice and teaching. But I'm always, I just, I don't know. I get more and more excited about what we're doing uniquely. And I've always been relatively quiet about it. And I don't know if you've gone through this yet, but I'm doing it earlier. I know most people in their 70s and 80s say whatever the they want. Can I say that?
Yeah.
Right?
You just did.
Yeah, I do. Beep. They say what they want because they've lived long enough and they
Right.
figure, what the heck? Why shouldn't I speak my mind?
Yeah.
So one of my new passions is actually being very open about whatever I'm thinking. And, humility and this stuff that I used to think I needed, I know my course is 10 times better than anything out there. Now I'm screaming from the rooftops. We're going digital with it. In other words, there's an online version coming out. And I do believe that this will be, it should be one of the leading education systems for complex dentistry because it's simpler than anything else. Why would anybody go through 2 years and over $100,000 if they could learn it better in 4 days and $10,000? So I'm very excited. I don't want to speak poorly of the others, but why would I not be honest? Like,
Yeah.
why would I not, be promoting the actual truth, which is people walk out of my course after having taken all those others, and that's the day that they start doing the big cases after my course.
Yeah.
And they get a 10, 15 times ROX in the first 6 months usually. Like there's not many things in life that you get that kind of return.
Yeah.
You're an investment guy.
Yeah.
You're a genius on investment. Wouldn't you invest over and over again on something that you get a 15 times ROX in 6 months?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And
so the sky's basically the limit because you have no idea where that would lead because we're talking about a global situation. I mean, this dentistry, we've got to go to, we've got to go, we got to take care of England as quickly as possible.
Oh, yes. Well, by the way, I specialize in the English. I mean, that's easy.
Okay.
Yeah. I once had the ex-finance minister of the UK come in and gave me 2.5 weeks to redo his entire mouth, every tooth in his mouth. And we got it done because we have a laboratory in-house. So we could pull things off like that most dental practices can't. And our process is so predictable, it's not even a concern.
Yeah. I mean, you've got experts at every level. I know the just getting the x-rays there was quite an experience. The detail that you went to in just getting the x-rays, just getting started
Yeah, we like to start with a plan, begin with the end in mind. Real thorough.
Yeah. Well, as you look to your, you think about all the things we've covered, we've talked about here today. A lot of people are listening. They can find you at if they're dentists, if they want to find you, if they're patients, they want to find you. They want to fly into Aspen, they want to get a consult or whatever. But how do they find you as far as information? What's the website or what do you recommend?
You can find me at andrewturchin.com, on Instagram at andrewturchin.dmd, or I'm a very personable person, one-on-one kind of person. I have a whole team here, but if anybody wants to ask me anything specific, or just hit me up on my personal email, it's Andrew Turchin DMD, David Mary David at gmail.com.
Okay.
And I don't mind anybody has a question, whether it be a dentist or a patient, or I'm happy to help in any way I can.
What would you if I gave you a chance, which I always like to do, to have a final word, something that you might have in your mind to pass on to people who are climbing the ladder and want to do great things in their life? What I love about you is you've done great things coming out of a profession, something people would not think, maybe not be aware of the possibilities, other than have a good profession and have time off. Get it to the minimum number of days per week where I can go play golf, the other thing, but not realize all of the things you can do with a profession, And so anyway, is there anything that you want to pass on?
Well, we kind of touched upon it, but it's just a simple idea: is simplify, then multiply. Before you multiply, you have to simplify, or else things get really, really complicated and life gets harder. So whenever you're thinking about growing something, first simplify it. And to me, that's systems and all this other stuff, and being real clear and simple on it. And then you can multiply. Once you've simplified something, it's so much easier to multiply. And I think we should all think about that sometimes.
That is so true. And it's so great to hear that concept coming from you in the dentistry world. Because since I've been so familiar with it in training and building organizations.
Well, it's how we do more full mouth reconstructions than any other dentist in the country right now. And it's considered complicated stuff, and we simplified it so it's simple for us.
Wow. Yeah. Fantastic. Well, I'm hoping we get a chance to talk again, do this again. I'm looking forward to seeing you out in Aspen. Hopefully I'll be out around the 22nd.
Oh, perfect.
This month. And hopefully we'll have a whole lot more snow by the time I get there.
I know we could use it.
Yeah. So anyway,
sure,
thanks so much. Appreciate you taking this busy time of the year and prime time of your day to get in and share with us. So great information. Thanks so much.
Thanks a ton, Larry. Really appreciate it.
All right. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the $1 Million Mastermind. If you felt there were any valuable takeaways from this episode, please take a minute and leave us a 5-star review. Your feedback is important and really helps us get the word out to a wider audience. Remember, we have a valuable webinar that is absolutely free. Register for it right now at weidelonwinning.com. Thanks for listening.